Apple's M1 Max laptops have one huge downside, one weakness where Windows laptops, especially with RTX graphics, really excel. Now, we know that these machines are amazing for photo editing, for video editing, for web browsing, for battery life, for coding. All of that's phenomenal, but the big weak spot is 3D rendering. Well, today we're gonna test out the latest updates, the fix that is gonna make 3D rendering much faster. We'll see how much it improved compared to before, along with how it compares to an RTX 3080 equipped laptop that's very powerful, both plugged in, and we're also gonna unplug it to see how the performance compares when both of them are running with the same amount of wattage, about 46 watts for the GPU. And we're gonna do that with the alpha build of Blender that was just released. Now, Blender is free. It is extremely popular amongst people online because anybody can learn it and use it. There are a couple major game studios that use it. So it's a massive program. And for a while now, we're only using Cycle's CPU-based rendering. It takes forever. Now, this is a huge downside. Obviously, we have Redshift that does work with Metal. It still needs optimizations. A lot of other programs need to be optimized, but this is a huge one for the community. Now, along with this downside, there are some other downsides to these M1 Max. So I'm actually working on a video giving you guys all the weaknesses of this system. And if you guys wanna see that video, you wanna see some reasons why you might not wanna buy one, make sure you guys subscribe down below. That's gonna be coming up very soon. But for now, let's go ahead and jump in. I'm gonna start out with a couple projects that we've been testing within the last month and a half just to see how much faster we can get these to run with Cycles. Let's come down to the settings right here. We're gonna switch from Eevee, which is what we were using for really quick renders. People use it for preview, some people use it for gaming. It's a good engine, but Cycles is the one that we want, what most people use for high quality. And we're gonna switch over to experimental right here. And that will allow us to switch over to GPU compute. And now it is not grayed out, meaning it will run. Now we're gonna run this first test, but I also wanna open up my activity monitor, go to window and GPU history. That way we can actually see how much GPU usage we actually get. And let's go ahead and hit render. Bam, look at that right there. Our graphics card is maxed out and we are running both CPU and GPU together. You guys see the CPU is at 84%, so that's not maxed out all the way, but it is close, and let's see how long this takes. And bam, it is finished, and that is way faster than before. It took 1 minute and 18 seconds compared to 4 minutes and 10 seconds previously. That is 3.2 times faster, but this is a simple project. Let's get a little bit more difficult, and then we'll do the ones that you guys have tested at home. This is the PartyTub project. It is a lot more difficult. There's a bunch of shaders here. Right now, everything is loading up, getting ready. So it's a lot more complex, a lot of effects and particles here. All right, the test is finished, and it's interesting that this is one of the few times that I actually hear the fans spinning up. They're about half speed or so, very quiet still, but we're hitting the CPU pretty hard and maxing out the GPU for a time of 1 minute and 54 seconds. From 754 down to 154, or over 4 times faster results, 4.15, that is impressive. Now this next project is probably one of the most popular Blender projects as far as benchmarking, so you guys may have tested it. There's tons of tests online which you can compare these results to, which is why I want to run it, and I'm going to set this to render. And the other thing that I want to tell you guys is that you have to remember this is the alpha build, the very first one that just came out. It's not even a beta version, so people online are saying that there are so much more optimizations that are going to happen. This system is going to get a lot faster. This is the very, very first result. And bam, look at that. That's probably the biggest difference we've seen, from 8 minutes and 45 seconds down to 1 minute and 43. That's over 5 times faster than previously. So if you're working with Blender, you gotta download this alpha build if you're doing renders. It is a huge difference. And now we have to do the classic. We have the BMW scene right here. Let's render it. And we have just under 42 seconds. That is also about 5 times faster than before. So definitely huge improvements. Like I said, people said it's gonna take a year or more to get optimized. Look at that, it's been a month and a half since these machines came out, and we're seeing these massive improvements. Now, of course, this is about 5 times faster. Some people online said in some of their projects about 7 times faster, but how does that compare to a Windows laptop? So here we go, we got the Razer Blade Advanced with the RTX 3080 graphics card here. It's got 32 gigs of RAM plus 16 gigs dedicated to that graphics card. We're gonna plug it into 230 watts of wall power, make sure that it is in full performance so we get the maximum results. And then let's go ahead and test that out. And then after, we'll also run a test on battery. And now let's hit render. I also want to monitor the performance here, so let's see what happens when this thing starts up. All right, the fans are kicking up right now. Both our CPU and the graphics are pinned, and that took just over 30 seconds compared to 42 seconds with our MacBook Pro. So that is a significant difference. This is an easy project here, so let's go and step it up. We're running our render and this thing is flying through it. Our CPU is maxed out, our graphics basically jumping between 95 and then sticking at 100, down to 95, back to 100. Let me know down below how long you think this will take and how much faster it's gonna be than the M1 Max MacBook Pro. All right guys, we have our results and I'm quite surprised. Our M1 Max MacBook Pro took 1 minute and 43 seconds. This thing just finished it in 1 minute and 39.46. Base is still 1 minute and 39 if we round down to a little bit faster. So is that like what, 4 seconds faster than the M1 Max with the Alpha build? This is a lot tougher project than the BMW one. That is surprisingly really close. And now it is time to unplug this beast of a laptop and see how it performs as a laptop. Of course, the MacBook Pro performs the same plugged in or unplugged. We've shown you guys that. And with this, you are going from 105 watts down to about 46, which is pretty much the peak that the M1 Max graphics, the 32 cores, will use. Let's go ahead, we're gonna test out our BMW scene first. The RTX 3080 peaked at about 94% performance, but it's sitting roughly 75% on average, and the CPU is just about 32%. So it's definitely being limited when we're unplugging from that 230 watts. And our test is now finished, and that took 1 minute and 2 seconds using both the CPU and the GPU to render on battery power. So that is about 48% slower than our M1 Max MacBook Pro. So when we're plugged in for this scene, the RTX 3080 is about 40% faster, but when we unplug it, 48% slower. Now, of course, if you're doing serious work, if you're at your office, wherever you're gonna plug in, but for those times where you don't have access or you wanna be portable, you guys see the performance. So they're kind of trading blows. But now let's go ahead and jump into the tougher project. And here in the classroom scene, we are getting a more graphics usage with spikes up to 100% GPU, which is good to see. It took 3 minutes and 33 seconds, and the MacBook on battery takes 1 minute and 43. So that is basically just over twice as slow as the MacBook. And when they're plugged in, very similar performance, slightly faster with the RTX 3080 in this very difficult classroom scene. So there you guys go. You guys see the performance between these systems. Of course, there's more optimizations that are gonna be made for our MacBook, but so far, you guys see there's a huge improvement. We saw just over 5 times improvement compared to previously, now that we can use CPU and GPU for cycles. And although it is not as good a performance as an RTX 3080 laptop, it's much, much closer. And then if you're somebody that doesn't want to render on battery power, which I know most of you guys don't, you're gonna be plugged in, you see there is a nice boost with the same wattage, 46 watts with the 3080, and I believe it's like 43 watts, regular usage with M1 Max peaking at 46 as well. So about the same amount of power being fed. So you guys let me know what do you think about this? Probably the biggest, weakest link with M1 Max was 3D rendering performance. And now we see in just a month and a half or so, the improvements that have been made, and there's gonna be a lot more improvements coming up. So thank you guys for watching. Once again, make sure to subscribe if you guys wanna see our top downsides of the M1 Max and these new 14 and 16-inch MacBooks. Click one of those videos over there if you guys wanna check out some detailed comparisons. This is Max, and I'll see you in the next video.